What if the biggest myths about human nature weren't mistakes, but tools? Tools that shaped societies, justified empires, and let a few pull levers while the rest of us nodded along. Today, we're dismantling them. 8 myths, 8 traps, and the philosophers who lit a match. Stay with me and watch how each truth turns out to be a story someone needed you to believe. Born selfish. Hobbes said the state of nature was a war of all against all. But Nietzsche said goodness is like water. Left alone, it flows downward. Who's right? Peek into the nursery. In Yale's famous helper versus hinderer experiment, infants prefer the helpful character to the bully. Toddlers spontaneously help strangers without reward. Evolutionary biology explains why. Kin selection and reciprocal altruism mean cooperation isn't a moral add-on, it's baked into survival. Yes, we can be selfish, but we're not born empty predators. We're born with rival impulses, fear and empathy, competition and care. Culture doesn't create morality from scratch, it tunes what's already humming. The darker truth, born selfish, survives not because it's accurate, but because it's useful. If you believe everyone is selfish, you won't trust, you won't organize, and you'll tolerate leaders who hoard. You lower your standards for others and for yourself. What if instead you started with this premise? You have a conscience by default. The question is, who's training it? Might makes right. Thrasymachus told Socrates that justice is the advantage of the stronger, brutal, clean, seductive. But Hannah Arendt drew the blade. Power and violence are opposites. Violence can destroy power, it cannot create it. Might can seize a throne, it cannot make people believe. Stable power is consent, stories, and shared symbols. What Machiavelli quietly admitted when he praised appearances and reputation. Even dictators know this. They feared jokes more than knives. Look at regimes that lasted. They wove legitimacy, law, ritual, bureaucratic habit into the spine of daily life. The gun is loud, but belief is louder and lasts longer. So the myth is half a truth weaponized, force matters, but right is crafted in language, law, and memory. You want real leverage? Learn the currents of legitimacy. Understand institutions. Master the soft power of framing. Ask yourself, who tells you that might makes right? Usually, those who want you to confuse fear with authority. Rational robots. The Enlightenment dream. Humans as cool calculators. But Hume detonated it long ago. Reason is, and ought only to be the slave of the passions. Neuroscience backed him up. Damasio's patients with damaged emotion centers could reason perfectly on paper and were paralyzed in real life, unable to decide lunch. You are not a computer with feelings added, you're feelings with a smart narrator attached. Kahneman's biases, Haidt's moral intuitions, these aren't bugs. They're fast heuristics from a dangerous past. Here's a thought experiment. An algorithm predicts your choices with 99% accuracy. Are you still free? The real question isn't whether you're rational, it's whether you can see the rails you're running on. The power move isn't to become a robot, it's to design environments, defaults, checklists, timeouts that make your better impulses easy and your worst ones expensive. Rationality is a team sport played with tools. Drop a comment. Which bias do you catch yourself falling into most? Blank Slate. Locke's tabula rasa made a clean political argument. If we're blank, society writes our fate, so reform the chalk. Then, Chomsky stormed in with universal grammar. Twin studies showed heritability in temperament and interests, and evolutionary psychology mapped ancient priorities onto modern screens. We are not blank, but we're not pre-written either. Genes set ranges, environments tune outcomes. Neuroplasticity lets violinists thicken motor cortices, trauma rewires vigilance, education builds cognitive endurance, epigenetics flips switches when stress or nourishment knocks. The danger of blank slate is naivete. The danger of hard wiring is fatalism. The truth is a third path. Nature hands you a toolkit. Culture teaches you what to build, so don't worship the slate, learn your grain, then choose your carpenter. Endless progress. We love the upward graph. Better medicine, fewer famines, global literacy rising, true and worth defending. But Walter Benjamin imagined the angel of history blown backward into the future, eyes fixed on piling wreckage. Progress creates problems as it solves others. Antibiotics meet superbugs, fossil fuels build cities and cook climates, attention economies connect minds and fracture them. Civilizations don't just climb, they overheat. Anthropologist Joseph Tainter showed how complexity buys solutions until the bill arrives and returns diminish. Then, systems simplify, sometimes violently. Progress is a ladder in a storm. You move up by holding three truths at once. Gains are real, gains are fragile, gains are uneven. If you want tomorrow to be better, you don't pray to the line. You maintain the infrastructure of progress, institutions that punish corruption, norms that protect truth, and redundancies that absorb shocks. Optimism isn't a mood, it's maintenance. Natural inequality. People are just unequal. Accept it. That's the lullaby of every aristocracy. Yes, individuals differ in height, grit, talent, but social Darwinism smuggled a leap from difference in ability to difference in worth. John Rawls flipped the script with the veil of ignorance. If you didn't know where you'd land in society, how would you design it? Most people choose strong floors and fair ladders. Amartya Sen reframed equality as capabilities, the actual freedoms to do and be. The data adds sharp edges. The Matthew effect shows how small advantages compound. Birth lottery predicts health, education, even risk tolerance. Much of what looks like merit is actually early head starts wearing a tuxedo. Inequality is not destiny, it's design. Change the scaffolding. Nutrition, schools, lead-free housing, open networks, and ability distribution blooms. The moral is simple. Different is natural. Domination is optional. If that irritates you, ask, who benefits when inequality is labeled inevitable? Eternal conflict. Hobbes again. Without the Leviathan, war. Realists repeat, humans are wolves, nations are gladiators, and yet, inside markets and villages, strangers cooperate daily without central commands. Elinor Ostrom documented communities that sustain commons without collapsing into tragedy through rules, reputation, and graduated sanctions. Game theory tells the same story. In one-shot games, betrayal wins. In repeated games with memory, strategies like tit for tat dominate, and trust becomes rational. Interdependence, trade, law, shared threats, turns enemies into reluctant partners. Violence has declined in many metrics, though the trend is jagged and reversible. Peace isn't a gift of nature, it's a technology. It requires maintenance, courts, norms, boring bureaucrats, and citizens who punish cheaters. Conflict isn't eternal, incentives are. Change those, and history changes with them. Fixed identity. Be yourself sounds noble until you realize you're not a statue, you're a river. Heraclitus said you can't step into the same river twice. The Buddha went further. There's no solid self at all, just a bundle of processes. William James called the self a stream. Modern psychology adds, it's also a story. Neuroplasticity shows your brain edits itself with practice. Memory is reconstruction, not playback. Identity forms in roles, Goffman's stagecraft, shifting across contexts. Erikson mapped developmental crises that never quite end. We keep negotiating who we are. The myth of fixed identity is comforting because it absolves you. This is just who I am. But the darker truth is more empowering. You are plural, and choice is real. You can apprentice yourself to a future self by changing habits, environments, and tribes. Here's the dare. Which identity pays your future the highest compound interest? Feed that one. The lies weren't random. Each myth served a purpose, to simplify what is complex, to excuse what is cruel, to sell what is convenient. Philosophy's job isn't to make you comfortable. It's to make you dangerous to lazy stories. Which myth had you trapped? Tell me in the comments. And then tomorrow, act like it's broken, because it is, and so are we. But broken things under pressure can become diamonds. The question is, what will you become when the story you inherited finally runs out of ink? Like and subscribe if you want to help a humble philosopher out.